This is Deep Talks with Eli. Enter into the wilderness, man. We're going to go deep today about cycles, the wilderness, the Israelites, and what they had to endure while they were in the wilderness, what they had to struggle with, what we all struggle with while we were in our wilderness season, while we were being tested on the job, in the relationship, in the marriage, with the finances. You know, you're getting hit from every angle. You got people, enemies, you dig what I'm saying, talking trash. You know, we all deal with enemies, and we deal with financial situations. We deal with the world and the state as a whole. We deal with ourselves as a whole. We deal with our own struggles, our own sins, our own problems as a whole, right? And we find ourselves stuck in these cycles, these sin cycles, to the point where we get tested with the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So you trying to realize and recognize, why is it that I haven't grown? Why is it that I haven't gotten past this test? Because that's what it is. It's a test. And why is it that? But you got to ask yourself: did I involve God in these tests? Did I ask for God's strength in these tests while I was getting tested? Or did you handle it with your own strength? Did you handle it while complaining? Did you handle it while being conniving? Did you handle it while being slanderous, gossipy? Did you handle it while being sinful? Did you handle it while taking up your own vengeance, cussing people out? You feel what I'm saying? Did you handle it in your own right, in your own flesh, in your own way? When we battle against the flesh, when we battle against the spirit, um, we end up getting mentally worked up. We end up getting mentally fogged in our mind, because the mind hasn't been restored. The heart hasn't been restored either, because what out of the abundance of the mouth, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So whatever is coming out of our heart is what the mouth is going to say. You see what I'm saying? It's what's going to show up in the wilderness season. It's what's going to show up while we're struggling. It's what's going to show up while we're in the season that we're going through, and while we're struggling. You know what I'm saying? The way that we're struggling. Um, the Hebrew Israelites, they struggled for 40 days and 40 nights, and they complained, and they, you know what I'm saying, they teary, they did all these things while they were in the struggle, and they did not turn to God. But we are going to read about that right now, and we're going to find out how they were doing their process, how they were undergoing their process, and what it took for them to be delivered out of that process. You see what I'm saying? So let's get straight to it. This is the wilderness. This is what God has to say to you, and it's what God has to say to me is in the process. So this is a right now type of word, a rhema type of word, and this type of word is something that you need to hear for your soul and for your spirit and for the right now. So let's get straight into it. There's enough talking. Let's read this word and let's see what God has to say to you and me. Let's do it. We are now 3 minutes in. Let's do it, y'all. So we are reading from Numbers 8, verse 5, y'all. Numbers 8, verse 5. When we going to be focusing on Numbers and Deuteronomy. So y'all catch me at Numbers chapter 8, verse 5. That's where we at. The Lord said to Moses, take the Levites from among the other Israelites and make them ceremonially clean. To purify them, do this. Sprinkle the water of cleaning on them, then have them shave their whole bodies and wash their clothes, and so purify themselves. Have them take a young bull with a grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil. Then you are to take a second young bull for a sin offering. Bring the Levites to the front of the tent of meeting and assemble the whole Israelite community. You are to bring the Levites before the Lord, and the Israelites are to lay their hands on them. Aaron is to present the Levites before the Lord as a wave offering from the Israelites, so that they may be ready to do the work of the Lord. Verse 12, y'all. After the Levites lay their hands on the heads of the bulls, use the one for a sin offering to the Lord and the other for a burnt offering to make atonement for the Levites. Have the Levites stand in front of Aaron and his sons, and then present them as a wave offering to the Lord. In this way, you are to set the Levites apart from the other Israelites, and the Levites will be mine. After you have purified the Levites and presented them as a wave offering, they are to come to do their work at the tent of meeting. They are the Israelites who are to be given wholly to me. I have taken them as my own in place of the firstborn, the first male offspring from every Israelite woman. 17, verse 17, every firstborn male in Israel, whether man or animal, is mine. When I struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, I set them apart for myself, and I have taken those Levites in place of all the firstborn sons in Israel. Of all the Okay, bet. Of all the Israelites, I have given the Levites as gifts to Aaron and his sons to do the work at the tent of meeting on behalf of the Israelites and to make atonement for them so that no plague will strike the Israelites when they go near the sanctuary. Verse 20. We are now on verse 20. Moses, Aaron, and the whole Israelite community did with the Levites just as the Lord commanded Moses. The Levites purified themselves and washed their clothes. Then Aaron presented them as a wave offering before the Lord and made atonement for them to purify them. After that, the Levites came to do their work at the tent of meeting under the supervision of Aaron and his sons. They did with the Levites just as the Lord commanded Moses. 23, the Lord said to Moses, this applies to the Levites, men 25 years old or more shall come to take part in the work at the tent of meeting, but at the age of 50, they must retire from their regular service and work no longer. They may assist their brothers in performing their duties at the tent of meeting, but they themselves must not do the work. This then is how you are to assign the responsibilities of the Levites. We are on chapter 9, y'all, the Passover. The Lord spoke to Moses in the desert of Sinai, in the first month of the second year after they came out of Egypt. He said, verses 2, y'all, this is where we need to be at. Have the Israelites celebrate the Passover at the appointed time, celebrate it at the appointed time at twilight on the 14th day of this month, in accordance with all its rules and regulations. So Moses told the Israelites to celebrate the Passover, and they did so in the desert of Sinai at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord commanded Moses. But some of them could not celebrate the Passover on that day because they were ceremonially unclean on account of a dead body. So they came to Moses and Aaron that same day and said to Moses, we have become unclean because of a dead body, but why should we be kept from presenting the Lord's offering with the other Israelites at the appointed time? Moses answered them, wait until I find out what the Lord commands concerning you. When then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites, when any of you or your descendants are unclean because of a dead body or are away on a journey, they may still celebrate the Lord's Passover. They are to celebrate it on the 14th day of the second month at twilight. They are to eat the lamb together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They must not leave any of it till morning or break any of its bones. When they celebrate the Passover, they must follow all regulations. But if a man who is ceremonially clean and not on a journey fails to celebrate the Passover, that person must be cut off from his people because he did not present the Lord's offering at the appointed time. Now it says that man will bear the consequences of his sin. 14, an alien living among you who wants to celebrate the Lord's Passover must do so in accordance with its rules and regulations. You must have the regulations for the alien and the native born. Boom. Okay, the cloud above the tabernacle. We getting to it, y'all. We getting to it. Trying to get to the verse that I need to read here. On the day of the tabernacle, the tent of testimony was set up. The cloud covered it from evening till morning. The cloud above tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the Israelites set out. Wherever the cloud settled, the Israelites in camp. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at his command, they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle a long time, the Israelites obeyed the Lord's command, order, and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was over the tabernacle only a few days. At the Lord's command, they would encamp, and then at his command, they would set out. Sometimes the cloud stayed only from evening till morning. And when it lifted in the morning, they set out. Whether by day or by night, whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days or a month or a year, the Israelites would remain in camp and not set out. And when it lifted, they would set out. At the Lord's command, they encamped. At the Lord's command, they set out. They obeyed the Lord's order in accordance with the command through Moses. The silver trumpets, y'all. The Lord said to Moses, this is chapter 10, verses 2, make 2 trumpets of hammered silver and use them for calling the community together and for having the camp set out. When both are sounded, the whole community is to assemble before you at the entrance to the tent of meeting. If only one is sounded, the leaders, the heads of the clans of Israel are to assemble before you. When a trumpet blast is sounded, the tribes camping on the east are to set out. At the sounding of a second blast, the camps on the south are to set out. The blast will be the signal for setting out. To gather the assembly, blow the trumpets, but not with the same signal. The sons of Aaron, the priests, are to blow the trumpets. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you and the generations to come. When you go into the battle, hold on. When you go into battle in your own land against an enemy who is oppressing you, sound a blast on the trumpets. Then you will be remembered by the Lord, um, by the Lord your God, and rescued from your enemies. Also, at your times of rejoicing, your appointed feasts and new moon festivals, you are to sound the trumpets over your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, and they will be a memorial for you before your God. I am the Lord your God. All right, so now the Israelites are getting ready to leave. So I'm gonna tell y'all what I can gain from what I'm gaining from this right about now in a second. I'm trying to figure out. All right, y'all, hold on. I'm just about finished with this. So it says, okay, y'all, so let's continue. Right now we got about 13 minutes in. We're about 13 minutes to 15 minutes in. Let's do it. The Israelites leave Sinai on the 20th day of the second month of the second year. The cloud lifted from above the tabernacle of the testimony. When then the Israelites set out from the desert of Sinai and traveled from place to place until the cloud came to rest in the desert in the desert of Paran. They set out this first time at the Lord's command through Moses. The divisions of the camp of Judah went first under their standard. Nahshon, son of Aminadab, was in command. Nathaniel, son of Zerah, was over the division of the tribe of Issachar, and Eliab, son of Helon, was over the division of the tribe of Zebulun. Then the tabernacle was taken down, and the Gershonites and the Merarites who carried it out set out. The divisions of the camp of Reuben went next under their standard. Elizur, son of Shedar, was in command. Shalom son of Zerah Shedai, was over the division of the tribe of Simon. The Elisaph, son of Dior, was over the division of the tribe of God. Then the Kohathites Gothites, Gothites, oh my God, set out carrying the holy things. The tabernacle was to be set up before they arrived. The divisions of the camp of Ephraim went next under their standard. Elisham, son of Imad, was in command. Gamil, son of Pedazur, was over the division of the tribe of Manasseh, and Abidan, son of the Gideonah, was over the division of the tribe of Benjamin. Finally, as a rear guard for all the units in the divisions of the camp of Dan, set out under their standard as Ahaziah, son of Imishana Shadia, was in command. Pigiel, son of Ekron, was over the division of the tribe of Asher, and Ahariah, son of Enan, was over the division of the tribe of Naphtali. This was the order of march for the Israelites' divisions as they set out. Now Moses said to Hobab, son of Ruel, the Midianite, Moses, father-in-law, we are setting out for the place about which the Lord said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will treat you well. For the Lord has promised good things to Israel. He answered, no, I will not go. I am going back to my own land and my own people. But Moses said, please do not leave us. You know where we should camp, in the desert, and you can be our eyes. If you come with us, we will share with you whatever good things the Lord gives us. So they set out from the mountain of the Lord and traveled for 3 days. The ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them during those 3 days, to find them a place of rest. The cloud of the Lord was over them by day when they set out from the camp. Whenever the ark set out, Moses said, rise up, O Lord. May your enemies be scattered. May your foes flee before you. Whenever it came to rest, he said, return, O Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel, far from the Lord. All right, we are 17 minutes in, y'all. Now, this is chapter 11, y'all. Far from the Lord. Verses 2. Now the people complained. That's where we need to be at, right there. Now the people complained about their hardships in hearing of the Lord. And when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. They were complaining, y'all, and God struck down the whole land. He struck down the whole camp because they're complaining. You see what I'm saying? Because they complained. And it's like, look at where God has brought us. Look at where God was bringing the Israelites. He scattered them division from division and covered them with the cloud. Cover them with the clouds, set them out. Cover them with the clouds, set them out. Cover them with the clouds, set them out. And protected Israel. He protected Israel the whole time. But in return, all Israel could do is complain. All Israel could do is not be show thanksgiving towards the leader that God appointed for them. They were ungrateful for the opportunities that God presented to them. You see what I'm saying? So they skipped out on the many blessings of God. They missed out on the many blessings of God because they would rather focus on their situation more than the one who's the provider and solutionist to the situation. So they stayed in the wilderness. They stayed in the camp. They stayed divided. You know what I'm saying? They stayed complaining. They stayed in division, chaos, murmur. You see what I'm saying? All this other stuff. So in fear, right? So quail from the Lord. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost, also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. So now they're complaining, y'all. They're complaining just like how we complain in our own lives. We complain about things that we've been gifted with, even if it's little. But if we can't show that we can do a little with a lot, then God will not give us a lot for our little. So he'll leave us in the wilderness as we sit there and complain. He'll leave you stuck in those cycles as you sit there and look for other things other than God and be disappreciative of where he's brought you to and where he's brought you through. So he will give you less and remind you that you are having to break out of the cycle of constantly being ungrateful, of constantly looking to be a victim, of constantly looking to your situation as God more than the God that you are supposedly supposed to be serving. So just like the Israelites, you sit there and complain about the manna. You see what I'm saying? The food that you're not getting, the accolades that you're not getting, the approval that you're not giving, the attention that you're not giving, the things that you're not getting. But God is sitting there mad and aroused with anger because he's like, look at what I brought you through. Your whole life is a testament of my grace, of my mercy, of the cloud that's bringing you through each and every situation that you don't even know about. People that went against you, people that's lied against you, situations that should have took you out. I brought you through that. Just like the cloud, I hovered you, I set you in and I set you out and I took you out of those lands. And I invited you and I separated you from those people, but yet you come to me with more complaining. And so right here it says that he brought fire down. And it took a leader that was close to God to bring it to die it down. Because if it didn't die down, they would have died in their complaining. They would have been consumed with the fire and the anger of the Lord if they would have stayed in their situation. And that was through unobedience. So now it's saying, now they're complaining, y'all. And they're saying in verse 7, if y'all follow along with chapter 11, the manna was like coriander seed and looked like risen. The people went around gathering it in the ground, and then the ground it in a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar. They cooked it in a pot or made it into cakes, and it tasted like something made with olive oil. When the dew settled in on the camp at night, the manna also came down. Moses heard the people of every family wailing, each at the entrance of his tent. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised on oath to their forefathers? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me. They keep complaining to me about all these problems, about all this stuff that they don't have, about all the stuff that they lack, about all the stuff that they're not appreciative of all the things that I've went through, suffered with these people with. And yet they keep complaining to me. And now, not only are they getting the wrath of God, but I'm getting the wrath of God because I'm carrying their complaints. I'm carrying their burdens that they don't want to come to God with. So Moses is like, what did I do to deserve this? I didn't do nothing to deserve this. I actually walk in obedience to you. I listen to your voice. And yet I'm suffering because your people are ungrateful. And they want to be stuck like victims in cycles that they have the power to break on their own if they call out to you. But they refuse to call out to you. Instead, they depend on me for everything. They depend on me for manna. They depend on me for this. They depend on me for that. They depend on me for a word. They depend on me to pray to God. They depend on me to answer them through God. They depend on me for everything, but yet they don't take up their own cross and do what thus saith the Lord. They rather complain. They'd rather be stuck in cycles that they made through their ungratefulness and disobedience and sin because they want to be stuck in the past on what happened to them and what continues to happen to them due to their constant complaints. So now it says, give us meat to eat. I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you are going to treat me, put me to death right now. If I have found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own ruin. 16, the Lord said to Moses, bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders and officials among the people. Have them come to the tent of meeting, that they may stand with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take of the spirit that is on you and put the spirit on them. They will help you carry the burden of the people so that you will not have to carry it alone. Tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed. If only we had meat to eat. We are better off in Egypt. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just one day, or just 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils, and you loathe in it. Because you have rejected the Lord, who is among you, and have wailed before him, saying, why did you ever leave Egypt? Right? Why did we ever leave Egypt? But Moses said, here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say, I will give them meat to eat for a whole month. Uh, would would they have enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the flesh in the sea were caught for them? The Lord answered Moses, is the Lord's arm too short? You will now see whether or not what I say will come true to you or for you. 24, y'all. So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord has said. He brought together 70 of their elders and had them stand around the tent. Then the Lord came down in a cloud and spoke with him, and he took of the spirit that was on him and put the spirit on 70 soldiers, 70 elders. When the spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did not do so again. However, 2 men whose names were Eldad and Medad had remained in the camp. They were listed among the elders, but did not go out to the tent. Yet the Spirit also rested on them, and they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' abide aid since youth, spoke up and said, Moses, my Lord, stop them. But Moses replied, are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his spirit on them. Then Moses and the elders of Israel returned to the camp. Now a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It brought them down all around the camp to about 3 feet above the ground, as far as a day's walk in any direction. All that day and night, and all the next day, the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers. Then they spread them out all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth, and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore, the place was named Kibroth Hatava, because they buried the people who had craved of the food. From Kibroth Hatava, the people traveled to Hazeroth and stayed there. So God plagued the people. He plagued what they were eating. He plagued the very thing that they were, unappreciative for. He plagued it. And so these people were gaining plagues. They were getting sick. They were getting diseases. They were lost, and they were without. You see what I'm saying? Because of their ungratefulness, because of their disobedience, because they chose to be victims, because they chose to sit in victimhood. They chose to sit in their situations. They chose to sit in those cycles. And so God let whatever had to come to them because they didn't want to change, right? They didn't want to change. Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife. He had married a Cushite. Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? They asked. Hasn't he also spoken to us? And the Lord heard this. Now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. At once the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out of the to the tent of meeting, all three of you. So three of them came out. Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud. He stood at the entrance to the tent and summoned Aaron and Miriam. When both of them stepped forward, he said, listen to my words. When a prophet of the Lord is among you, I reveal myself to him in visions. I speak to him in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face, clearly and not in riddles. So he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he left them. When the cloud lifted from above, from above the tent, there stood Miriam, leprous like snow. Aaron turned away, turned toward her, and saw that she had leprosy. And he said to Moses, please, my Lord, do not hold against us the sin we have so foolishly committed. Do not let us be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb with its flesh half eaten away. So Moses cried out to the Lord, O God, please heal her. The Lord replied to Moses, if her father had spit in her face, would she not have been in a disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she can be brought back. So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move until she was brought back. After that, the people left Hazaroth and encamped in the desert of Paran. All right, all right, y'all. Um, so I'm gonna keep reading up until we get to the people rebelling. That's what I want to get to. So the people rebel, y'all. The people rebelled, and then we gotta read Deuteronomy. So let's keep reading, y'all, and then I'm gonna finish it off. It's already 32 minutes in, but I hope y'all getting some type of word from this. So it says, y'all. The Lord said, this is chapter 13, verse 1. The Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites from each ancestral tribe. Send one of its leaders. So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert of Paran. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. These are their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shamar, son of Zakar. From the tribe of Simon, Shaphat, son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jufani. From the tribe of Issachar, Egal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Ufu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadil, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Manasseh, a tribe of Joseph, Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Emil, son of Gemali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Phosphi. From the tribe of God, Gil, son of Maki. 16, y'all, verse 16. These are the names of the men Moses sent to explore the land. Moses gave Hosea, son of Nun, the name Joshua. When Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev and on into the hill country. Oh, it's already 7:13, y'all. See what the land is like, and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of town do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees on it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruit of the land. It was the season for the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored this land from the desert of Sin as far as Rehob to toward Lebo Hamath. They went up through the Negev and came to Hebron, where Ahaman, Shishai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. Hebron had been built 7 years before Zon in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off a branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. Two of them, carried it on a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. All right. Report on exploration. All right, y'all. So we're getting ready to close. They came back, and this is still chapter 13, verses 26. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account: we went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are a great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So now the people are getting ready to rebel, y'all. And I'm gonna talk about this one, close out with this one, because I gotta hurry up and call it a day. Chapter 14, y'all, verses 2. That night, all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites, more complaining, y'all. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And the whole assembly said to them, if only we died in Egypt or in this desert. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. So the whole time they worried about going right back to the place that led them captive. Egypt, they were captivated in Egypt. And they want to go back to captivity. They want to go back to the bad. They want to go back to the evil. They want to go back to toxicity. They want to go back to their bad situations. Why? Because it was comfortable. Because, okay, as long as it's a bad situation, and it's good, the money good, right? The job good, the partner good, the car good, the house good, but I'm in a bad state of mind mentally. I'm in a bad state of mind emotionally. I'm in a bad state of mind spiritually. I'm in a bad state in life. But because I'm comfortable in being in bad, I'd rather deal with bad than to deal with the good. Because what comes with good, what comes with a blessing, also comes with a test. Also comes with long suffering. Also comes with obedience. Also comes with the fruits of the Spirit. Also comes with your testament to the obedience and the commandments and the commands of the Lord. But because you don't want to obey the commands of the Lord, you would rather go back to where it was comfortable, even if it means bad. even if it's bad for you. You'd rather go back. And so the people, the Israelites that were brought from this land, would rather go back to this land because it was comfortable, because they were eating good, and they weren't divided. They could quarrel there. They could do whatever they wanted to do there. They didn't have to obey commands there. They were kept in captivity, were enslaved, but they still ate off the fruits of the evil one, because the evil one was given a false delusion of peace, of sincerity, of security. You know what I'm saying? And so now they talking about we rather choose our own leader, we rather choose our own God, we rather choose our own idols before the Lord, and we rather disobey and dishonor the prophet that God sent to us, and complain and murmur and cast him off because we are too consumed with our own life. We are too consumed with our bad situations. We're too consumed with being the victim that we are too in the flesh to want to be a part of the spirit. So we'd rather go back to what was feeding our flesh. You see what I'm saying? To what was feeding the eyes and the ears and the taste buds and stuff like that, and it was making you feel good. We'd rather go back to that. So then it says, then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole Israelite assembly gathered there. Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. But the whole assembly talked about stoning them. Then the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites. The Lord said to Moses, how long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to believe in me? In spite of all the miraculous signs I have performed for them, among them I will strike them down with a plague and destroy them. But I will make you into a nation greater and stronger than they. Moses said to the Lord, then the Egyptians will hear about it. By your power you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of this land about it. They have already heard that you, O Lord, are with these people, and that you, O Lord, have been seen face to face, that your cloud stays over them, and that you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. If you put these people to death all at one time, the nations who have heard this report about you will say, the Lord was not able to bring these people into the land he promised them on oath. He slaughtered them in the desert. Now may the Lord's strength be displayed, just as you have declared. The Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, and forgiving sin and rebellion. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and the fourth generation. In accordance with your great love, forgive the sin of these people, just as you have pardoned them from the time they left Egypt until now. The Lord replied, I have forgiven them as you asked. Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of the men who saw my glory and the miraculous signs I have performed in Egypt and in the desert, but who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their forefathers. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. But because my servant Caleb has a different spirit and follows me wholeheartedly, I will bring him into the land he went to, and his descendants will inherit it. Since the Amalekites and Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn back tomorrow and set out toward the desert along the route to the Red Sea. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the complaints of these grumbling Israelites. So tell them, as surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you and the very things I heard you say in this desert. Your bodies will fail, every one of you, 20 years old or more, who who was counted in the census and who has grumbled against me. Not one of you will enter the land I swore with uplifted hand to make your home, except Caleb son of Jephunneh, and Joshua son of Nun. As for your children that you said would be taken as plunder, I will bring them in to enjoy the land you have rejected. But your bodies will fall in this desert. Your children will be shepherds here for 40 years, suffering for your unfaithfulness, until the last of your bodies lies in the desert for 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explore the land. You will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do these things to this whole wicked community, which has band against together against me. They will meet their end in this desert. They will die. So now the Lord is done. His final straw, his grace is lifted, and he's getting ready to make the Israelites die in their complaints, die in their sin, die in the very storm, the very desert, the very thing that he was trying to bring them out of. There was a promised land at the end of it, but they were so used to their complaints. They were so used to their murmuring. They were so used to their lifestyles. They were so used to their old ways, their old habits, their old mindsets, that they would rather handle it in their own strength and not give it up to the Lord. So God said, just because of that, just because of your disobedience, I sent this prophet to you. I sent Moses to you. I sent this leader to you. I sent this disciple to you, and you have rejected the disciple many times. You have rejected me many times. And so now you are getting ready to be judged for the very thing that you would rather have over. And you would rather have your circumstance over me. You would rather have your situation over me. You would rather have your porn, your lust before me. You would rather have your sin before me. You would rather have your drinks before me. You would rather have your smoke before me. You would rather have these bad situations and circumstances and friends and these cars and these clothes and these houses. You would rather have everything else before me. And now, because you put everything else before me, because you made yourselves an idol in your own sin, in your own lust, in your own flesh, of the lust of the eyes and flesh of the pride of life, now you have become at enmity with me. Now you are at war with me. Now you have become not only my friend, now you are my enemy. And now I'm getting ready to judge you just like an enemy would judge a war hero would judge his enemy. So now they're being judged. And now they're getting ready to die, and they're complaining, right? So it says 36, verse 36, y'all, and I'm getting ready to close out. So the men Moses had sent to explore the land, who returned and made the whole community grumble against him. By spreading a bad report about it, these men were responsible for spreading the bad report about the land, were struck down and died of a plague before the Lord. Of the men who went to explore the land, only Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh survived. When Moses reported this to all the Israelites, they mourned bitterly. Early the next morning, they went up toward the high hill country. We have sinned, they said. We will go up to the place the Lord promised. But Moses said, why are you disobeying in the Lord's command? This will not succeed. Do not go up, because the Lord is not with you. You will be defeated by your enemies, for the Amalekites, and the Canaanites will face you there, because you have turned away from the Lord. He will not be with you, and you will fall by the sword. Nevertheless, in their presumption, they went up toward the high hills country, though neither Moses nor the ark of the Lord's covenant moved from the camp. Then Amalekites and Canaanites who lived in that hill country came down and attacked them and beat them down all the way to Harma. So, man. So we're going to talk about the land, and then I'm going to close it at that. So, y'all, this is the land. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, after you enter the land I am giving you as a home, and you present to the Lord offerings made by fire from the herd or the flock as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, whether burnt offerings or sacrifices for special vows or free will offerings or festival offerings, then the one who brings his offering shall present to the Lord a grain offering of a tenth of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a quarter of a hin of oil. With each lamb for the burnt offering or the sacrifice, prepare a quarter of hin of wine as a drink offering. With a ram, prepare a grain offering of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a third or of a hin of oil and a third of a hin of wine as a drink offering, offered as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. When you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering or sacrifice for a special vow or of a fellowship offering to the Lord, bring with the bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with a half of hin of oil. Also bring half of a hin of wine as a drink offering. It will be an offering made by fire, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Each bull of ram, each lamb or young goat, it is to be prepared in this manner, do this for each one, for as many of you prepare. Everyone who is native born must do these things in this way when he brings an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord for the generations to come. Whenever an alien or anyone else living among you presents an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, he must do exactly as you do. The community is to have the same rules for you and for the alien living amongst you. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. You and the Lord and the alien shall be the same before the Lord. The same laws, and regulations will apply both to you and to the alien living amongst you. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land to which I am taking you, and you eat the food of the land, present a portion as an offering to the Lord. Present a cake from the fire, from the first of your ground meal, and present it as an offering from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to give this offering to the Lord from the first of your ground meal." Okay. So, you see right there, y'all, that they chose to do their own will. They chose to handle things in their own strength. They chose to be their own God, in a sense. When you handle things in your own strength, when you handle things by your own will, in a sense, you are saying that God, we do not need you. I do not need you. I do not need your guidance. I do not need your wisdom. I do not need your love. I do not need your preparation. I do not need your commandments. I do not need your voice. I do not need it because I am in my own will. I'm in my own strength. I'm in my own ego. I'm in my own pride. I would rather handle this situation by myself. I would rather go back to Egypt, and I would rather do things the old way. I would rather think the old way. I would rather act the old way. I would rather be stuck in sin cycles. I would rather complain about sin cycles that I could have came to you about. Instead, I came to myself about these situations. I try to handle these situations in my own strength. So now I'm stuck in these sin cycles. And not only will you be stuck in these sin cycles, the more you handle it in your own strength, but God will allow for you to die in it. Sin leads to death. So God will allow for your sin, your complaining, your murmuring, your this, your that, to cause for situations, places, people, and things to die in your life if you continue to handle things the way you want to handle things. If you continue to depend on yourself as an idol, because you're saying whenever you handle things in your own flesh, in your own strength, you're saying innately to God, I do not need you. I would rather go back to Egypt. I would rather eat the feast of the Egyptians. I would rather go back into captivity with Pharaoh. I would rather do things that the devil was making me do in my captivity due to my delusion and dishonesty and disloyalty to the Holy Spirit. I would rather be in this place of contentment that I've created through my own complaints, through making myself my own God, through making myself my own victim. And I would rather stick to victimhood rather than being a conqueror in another land, in a new land, in a new life, in a new body, in a new mind, in a new heart. I would rather be in this old land because this old land is comfortable. This old land gave me comfortability in my sin. This old land gave me comfortability in being a victim, and being mad, and being angry, and being and cussing folk out, and sticking to my own laws, statutes, and commandments, because I've made myself a god through my victimhood. And by me making myself a god through my own victimhood, I've disobeyed God by going against the grain, choosing my own understanding, choosing my own vengeance, taking upon my own anger when God tells you to let that go, taking behind my own unforgiveness and bitterness when God's telling you to let that go, taking behind my own way of overcoming these things that I was brought out of, and God brought me to that new land. But because I don't want to let go of my old ways, I'm being brought right back to that old land. And if I keep going back to the old land, I'm going to die in it, because, or I'm going to see death in my life, because these things is what God is already delivering you from, or trying to deliver you from. But because you keep going in your own way, in your own route, in your own tenant, instead of looking to leaders like Moses, instead of looking to prophets like Moses, instead of looking to disciples like Moses, and asking these disciples for guidance, wisdom, and knowledge. Not only these disciples, but asking God for it, so that you can be turned away from your enemies, that you can be turned away from the people that's trying you in your job, the drink that you keep picking up, the weed that you keep smoking, the sex that you keep doing, that you can be turned away from your enemies that are looking for you, and they hunting for you, and they talking about you, that they can't even have access to you, because it's God that you're governed by, because you're in his will, because you're in his obedience. So can't nobody do nothing to you. God will not give you a spirit of fear. He is not a God of chaos and confusion. He will not deliver you somewhere from something and then take you right back to it. No, that's confusion. That's chaos. That's the enemy. And the enemy wants you captive back in Egypt, because it gives him more legal access to your flesh and to your life, through your sin, through your disobedience, through your complaining, through your slander, through your murmuring, because you will not give your situations up to the one true God that has the answer for every test that you've gone through, went through, been through, and keep coming out of. But because you don't want to go to the one that gives you the test, that gave you the test, you would rather seek the answer for yourself, you miss out on the lesson. So then God has to bring the lesson right back, so that you can obey, be in his will, study his commandments, study his love, and overcome by the blood of the testimony, by the word of the testimony, by the confession of your mouth, by the strength of God's strength. And you can be renewed in your mind, renewed in your heart, and come out a new person, a better person. More character involvement is now involved. You are becoming the new version. You are living in the land of milk and honey, and now you are accessed in a new and completely new land, where God can speak to you. His spirit can dwell with you. He can bring you help. He can testify of things that he's done for you. You can give him glory, because he's brought you out of the very thing that you gave to him. But until you give him your situation, until you give him your pride, until you give him your lust, until you give him your addictions, then he will not be able to give you the land of milk and honey. He will not be able to bring you out of Egypt. He will not be able to get you out of your circumstances and situations that you keep complaining about, keep praying about, but you see no result. Why? Because you have not obeyed the lesson. You have not obeyed the one who gave you the lesson, and you have not done it by his will, and you have not taken to him everything that you are dealing with, continue to deal with, and are going to deal with. And you still keep handling it in your own flesh, in your own sin, in your own understanding, in your own strength. And you keep seeing these things pop up in your life, and you keep wondering, why do I keep going back to this, and that? Why do I keep going through this, and that. Well, maybe you're not going back to the one who can deliver you from it, because you rather choose Egypt, you rather choose your comfort, you rather choose the very things that God has brought you out of, and you rather choose this old way of living, because the new way of living requires sacrifice. The new way of living requires for you to lay down your cross. The new way of living requires for you to pick up your cross. The new way of living requires for you to hold your tongue. The new way of living requires for you to let go of your sin. The new way of living requires for you to be a new creature in Christ Jesus, so that he can reveal in you and through you what he is doing for not only you, but for the people that's around you, so that why other people can be delivered by your word of your testimony. But other people will not be delivered because you are selfish to the fact that you think that this is all about you. You think that this is all about you. You think this is all about your personal situations and outcomes, when it's not about you. It's about those who are around you and that's going through it with you, that are need your testimony, need your provision, need your guidance, need your wisdom to get out of that. But if you are misguided, if you are unwise, if you are unknowledgeable about your own situation, how can you bring other people out of their situation, especially if you say that you depend on God? That will not work. You will stay in your situation until you have the courage and the strength to come to God about these situations, about these problems, and about what you're going through, so that he can get you to the land of milk and honey, and he can bring others with you, just like Moses, and y'all can all dwell in the presence of God and be set free. That cannot happen if we continue to complain. That cannot happen if we do not obey his commandments. That cannot happen if we do not walk in righteousness and purity, and if we do not take for granted what he's brought us out of and what he's continuously trying to prune off of us. That will not happen unless you give your will up to God. So you will continue to go through what you're going through. You will continue to suffer. You will continue to complain. You will continue to murmur. You will continue to work there. You will continue to do this. You will continue to do that. And you will continue to be addicted. You will continue to have negative thoughts. You will continue to have a negative life, because it reflects out of your heart. Because it reflects out of your walk with Christ. It reflects out of your non-negotiable relationship that you have not dealt with Christ. It reflects off of that. And whether you like it or not, other people are also looking at your study. They're looking at your journey. They're looking at how you are overcoming these situations. They're looking at the God that you serve. Do you serve yourself? Do you serve Egypt? Do you serve Pharaoh? Or do you truly serve God? They will look at your life and see if it's a testament to what God has brought you out of and through. Because now, when you get through it through his will, now you're able to testify and tell others, this is what I made it out of. This is what I made it through. This is the new mindset. This is the land of milk and honey the land that he's developed within me. I am out of Egypt. I am out of my old habits. I'm out of my old burdens. I'm out of my old ways. I'm no longer that person anymore. I've changed. I have become new creature in Christ, and he has gave me the land of milk and honey, because I was able to trust his voice. I was able to trust his will. I was able to put down my flesh, put down my pride, put down my ego, put down these vices, put down these idols, put down these sins, put down death, put down all these things, these addictions that I've casted amongst the Lord, and I was able to give it up for his will, and he brought me into another land. He brought me out of that, and now I'm going to tell you how I can bring you out of that, and how God can bring you out of that through my obedience to God. And now you can have a solution. You can have a pathway. You can bring others as well as me back to Christ, back to the land of milk and honey, back to servitude, back to being in his will completely and surrender. This is what the gospel is all about. But we cannot do that, especially if we say that we know Christ, that we know God, if we are not passing the test ourselves. We need to be the disciple before we disciple. We need to be the servant before we become the master. We need to be the leader before we got to become that. Before we try to tell the others how to do their stuff, before we try to walk in this or walk in that, you don't know your purpose, because you're not going to the one that's giving you, that gives purpose. You don't know the land of milk and honey, because you're not going to the one that gives you the land of milk and honey. You're not going to the one that knows the solution. You're not going to the one that knows your problem. You're not going to the one that knows that you're sick. You're not going to the one that knows that you have plagues. You're not going to the one that knows that you have sins. You're not going to the one that knows that you struggle. You're going to your friends. You're going to your family. You're going to the club. You're going to the party. You're going to the houses and the cars and the money and the job. You're going to all these other outlets. You're going to all these other things except for the one that gives you purpose. And you think that these things are going to give you purpose when they're going to be temporary, and they're going to temporarily give you excitement. And once that excitement blows out, then you don't want it no more. Then you don't want that leader no more. Then you don't want that walk no more. Now you don't want to walk with Christ now because it's too difficult. Why? Because it's required. God requires for you to sacrifice. God is about forward movement. He's about walking the path. When you stay stuck in cycles, he cannot deliver you because you are not willing to give something up. You need to give something up to be delivered, to see land of milk and honey, to be brought out of Egypt. You're still in Egypt because you still have its habits. You still have its character. You still have its traits. You still have his mindset. You still got his heart. You still got his tongue. You still got everything the way that Egypt dresses. Everything about Egypt, the captivity of Egypt, you still have it on you. And so now when the new comes, it's unusual. It's insanity. It's unsanctified to you. It's unsafe. It's scary. I don't like this. You complain about it. You that about it because it's requiring for you to stop feeding your flesh. It's requiring for you to die to yourself. It's requiring for you to let go and let God. But you don't want to let go and let God. You want to continue to handle it in your own strength. So he's like, all right, cool. If you continue to do that, then you will be left without leaders. You will be left without help, and you will be left without the ones that I sent for you. And you will continue in this sin cycle until you come to me about it. And this time you will hit rock bottom so hard that you might not be able to make it out of this one alive. You might not be able to make it out of this one with help. You might not be able to make it out of this one with another lending hand, because I lended you a hand in these seasons. I covered you with the cloud. I sent you out. I sent you in. I sent you out. I sent you in. I sent fire as a burning bush. I sent these things to you. I sent these people to you. I sent these signs for you. I did these miraculous wonders for you. But yet you complain. You say that you love God. You say that you love His. You want to get brought out of this old lifestyle. You say you want to get it brought out of Egypt, but you're not willing to commit. You're not willing to sacrifice. You're not willing to say no to your flesh. You're not willing to say no to your desires and your temptations and the temptations of Egypt. You're not willing to say no to Egypt. You're not willing to say no to the devil. You're not willing to say no to Pharaoh. You're not willing to say no to your own will. You're not willing to say no to the partying. You're not willing to say no to the sin. You're not willing to say no to the flesh. You're not willing to say no to these things that are before me. So therefore, you will have to suffer in the very things that I try to bring you out of. But until you come to me about it, you'll stay in it. And if you don't come to me in time, you'll eventually die in it. So you don't want to die in your sin and forever perish, just like the Egyptians, just like the Israelites. You got to give up what you think that you are struggling with, that has such a hold on you. And you got to let go and let God. And you got to kill this flesh. And you got to let God be supreme and alpha of your life so that you can hear from God like Moses. So that God can speak to you directly like Moses. So that you can be guarded and protected like Moses. So that God can spread your enemies each and every way, just like Moses. Whenever they come for you, whenever they attack of you, whenever they send them bad reports to you, God can twist it and run each and every bad report, gossip, lie, slander, threat from you. And you won't be touched because God is with you, just like He was with Moses. And God showed Moses the land of milk and honey because of his obedience. And so because you were obedient through your cycles, through your sin, through these things, these trials and tribulations, through the desert, through the wilderness, now He was able to bring you out of that wilderness and give you the land of milk and honey because you obeyed His spirit, you obeyed His command, you obeyed what He told you. And now all you're gonna do now is prosper. All you're gonna do now is see his blessings. All you're gonna do now is envelop yourself in what he promised you. They try to envelop themselves in what God promised them when it was too late. When it was too late. So they didn't see it. God wants you to see it. So you have to envelop yourself now so you can see it. But you won't be able to see it if you stay stuck seeing the trials, the tribulations, the bad people, the this, the that, the addictions. If that's all you choose to see, then that's all you will see, and you will die in what you see and what you believe, because what you see is what you believe. So if you believe this, if you keep casting this upon yourself, death or whatever it may be upon yourself, then it will be your reality. And you'll be stuck in that reality until you come to the one that can save you from that reality, that can save you from that sin, that can save you from that wilderness, that can save you from those trials, that can save you from your tribulation, that can save you from your pain, that can save you from your ego, that can save you from your flesh, that can save you from yourself. Because you cannot deliver yourself. You need help. And stop depending on your own strength in your own understanding, because God says do not depend upon your own understanding. Do not lean upon your own understanding. Do not handle things in your own strength. Do not take up your own vengeance. Do not go back to old habits, old things. Lot's wife turned to a pillar of salt because she looked back. Just like the Israelites, they kept looking back, and so they died. They died, and they stayed there, and they remained there. And there was no grace shown for them because they chose their situations, their circumstances. They chose Egypt. They chose Sodom and Gomorrah over forward movement, over God's command, over God's voice, over God's guidance, over his wisdom, over his word. So I'm going to leave y'all off with that. I pray that this message is convicting as possible, because we are all stuck in sin cycles, but we don't come out of those sin cycles until we confess, until we let go, and until we surrender, until we become righteous, holy, and practice these things, what we preach, and practice what God commands of us through his commandments, through his love, through his grace, through the very grace that he shows us on each and every day basis by even waking us up in the morning. We will only get out of our circumstances and situations when we come to the one we will only get out of these tests when we come to the one who gives the test. Once you come to the one who gives the test, he will give you the answer. And not only will he give you the answer, but the answer will follow with the land of milk and honey, and you will be able to dwell in the answer, and you will be able to dwell in the land of milk and honey and experience all of what God was planned and destined for you in the first place, because you went to him, because you gave it up to him, because you surrendered. Now you can see it. You can see what God sees. Now you can live in what God lives in every day. So I'll leave y'all off with that. Y'all be blessed. It's already 72 minutes in. I should have been got off live, but y'all be blessed by that word, and deuces.